Hi, I'm State Senator Anthony Portantino. I'm proud to represent the city of Glendale and proud to support Glendale Out and obviously Pride Month at Adams Square Park. I was born in West Long Branch, New Jersey, 61 years ago. I moved to California after college and settled in the area and have been representing Glendale since 2016. Well, it's so great to see Glendale Out bring pride events to Glendale. I mean, it's important that we all, straight allies, our LGBTQ plus community comes together, and we do everything we can to be supportive, and that's why this is so important to be here today. For me, I grew up in the 70s with an older gay brother, and I remember a time when he faced a lot of discrimination and anger and frustration and ignorance. And so as his younger brother, was an eye-opening experience for me. And we both ended up in California, where my brother Michael became a significant LGBT civil rights leader in San Diego and a publisher of the largest gay newspaper in California at the time. And he had his own struggles later in life, and so I try to carry on his legacy. Tragically committed suicide a decade ago, and so I try to carry on his legacy and support the LGBTQ plus community wherever I can. I think it's positive. I think it's continuing to improve. I think events like having Pride become an annual event and having LGBTQ plus, civil rights and perspective so accepted and brought to the forefront, I think it's important. It's like anything else. The more we interact with each other, the more we learn from each other, the more we see ourselves in other people, the better we do as a community and society. So I think that's why it's important to be here to support Glendale Out, not just during Pride Month, but the other 11 months out of the year. And the more we can come together, the better. Well, I think historically it had a reputation where it wasn't, and I think that's changed. I think the current leadership, Mayor Kasakian is really a good guy and a bold leader, and I think the current council is doing everything it can to send a message out there that it's a welcoming, loving, caring place, and that includes our gay brothers and sisters, our lesbian brothers and sisters, and the community as a whole. And so I think Glendale's doing a good job. I think the YWCA is doing a good job in doing a lot of community outreach, a lot of efforts to bring the community together. I think that their umbrella is larger than they punch above its weight, that phrase. So I think that's important. I think within the school district you're seeing more, within Glendale Community College. I think you're seeing the community sort of grow as times change, and we have to say this is a safe place. And young people, today's teenagers are far more nurturing than past generations. One of the observations I've seen is they look out for each other much more so than past generations, and it's really nice to see. Now the challenges are significant. Obviously, coming out of the pandemic, young people have faced enormous challenges. We do have a time where 1 in 5 teenagers think about suicide, and 1 in 3 LGBT youth think about suicide. And so, we have to be more loving and embracing and accepting of our neighbors. And I think young people get that more so than we old folks, and they're teaching us to be better people, and that's important. Well, I think it's important to recognize that as a community, it has faced struggles and discrimination and ignorance, and there's an element, not in California but in other parts of the country, to demonize those folks who are different than the perception of what us is. And I think we have to send our love to those other communities. We have to, if we have relatives in other states, we have to say, what your leaders are doing, polarizing people and demonizing the LGBT community is just wrong. And so I think that's where California can be even a bigger voice, because many of us came from other states. I came from New Jersey. So many of us came from other places. And if we can share the California perspective to other states, I think we can make a difference, because there are people who are polarizing America and dividing America based along racial lines, ethnic lines, and sexual orientation lines. And that's how they try to get power in those pockets of intolerance. And so we have to send our love and appreciation and make it bigger than their hate and divisiveness. And I think that's something that it starts on the local level. And interestingly, when I was talking to some of the folks here this morning, they were talking about how important it is to have local pride events, not just the big splashy one in West Hollywood, that it's important for Glendale to speak with its LGBTQ plus voice, for Burbank and Sunland Tahunga and other communities to step up. And so I think all those little efforts create a bigger effort, and so that's why it's important to be here. It was traumatic. I mean, I remember, my brother, back in the 70s, he was the only kid in school who would tuck his jeans in his boots, and so everybody knew he was gay. He didn't hide it, and as his younger brother, it gave me an observation of intolerance and hatred, and I saw what he went through. He was very combative, and so which is interesting why 40 years later his bout with depression and suicide was so shocking to the rest of us, because he was such a tough teenager and such a tough guy in his life. He had to be. And he conquered everything and became a successful businessman and a publisher of a gay newspaper. And so when he got depressed and lost his struggle with mental health, it really shook all of us, because Michael was such a tough guy. And so for me as his younger brother, I learned a lot about discrimination and hatred as a young kid, and then an appreciation for his activism as an adult, and draw inspiration from that today. And so it's been an interesting journey being the younger brother, as times have changed. These are my brother's pride beads. These beads are probably 40 years old. And so when he passed away, I saw him in his jewelry box that I took him, and so I wear them to pay homage to him every year. His name was Michael Portantino, and the newspaper he owned was the Gay and Lesbian Times, and that was his contribution. When he bought the paper, it was called the Gay Times, and he added the word lesbian to the title, because he said, we're one community, we're not two, we have one civil rights structure, and so struggle. So he changed the name to the Gay and Lesbian Times, or the GLT is what it was known for. So interestingly, my mom was an Italian widow, and when my brother came out to her again in the 70s, and her love for him was so big that she sort of brought everyone, all the conservative Italian Catholics in the family, they all, embraced Michael and loved Michael, because my mother's love was so big and magnanimous and just, accepting of him, and it really made a difference. And then years later, when my mom passed away, in her obituary, I talked about how she set this safe space for Michael and brought everybody along to accept and love, Michael at a time when it was, much more of a struggle. A couple came up to me at a party, and they said, we read about your mom, and we're conservative Republicans, and our son is gay. And the mom said, reading about your mom made me want to be a better mom. And so she touched people, after she was even gone, her love was that big that she touched people beyond that. So proud to have my mom as my mom, and be the younger brother of my brother.